guys, welcome back or welcome to my channel. My name is Jesslove and I thought I'll put myself up to the test and see how much DIYs I could sell. At first, I intended to just sell 40 DIYs, which was my goal. But as the time and days went on, that proved me wrong. I ended up listing 80 DIYs. Let's just say that it was very ambitious of me to think that I could sell all 80 DIYs within just a few days, which was not the case. I just want to say thank you to all the lovely people who bought from me and got my DIY. I'm so happy to get rid of it and to give it to someone who needs it. As the saying goes, a man's junk is another man's treasure. I just want to say I'm sorry if we had traded, but you were not in this video. I'm so sorry. I did have to cut out some clips here and there, so if you were one of those few people that you do not see yourself, I'm so sorry. At first, I let people come to my island and do the trade there, and I thought it would be a little bit more easier, but as it turns out, as I went back to review the footage, it just looked a little weird. Like it was just me sitting down and you would see me saying hello. And I just thought that was a bit weird, so I stopped doing that, and then I went to other people's islands. And instead of selling my DIYs to Timmy or Tommy or selling it in mystery grab bags, which honestly would have been the easier way out, I wanted to test myself to see how much I could sell within just a few days. I also wanted to know how long I could go before calling it quits. On the first day doing this test, I ended up listing all 40 DIYs, although I thought it would be a little bit more stressful, but since I didn't really get a lot of offers, it was pretty okay and very quiet since I didn't get any offers. So I ended up listing my other DIYs I had, which ended up turning into 80 DIYs. And after doing that, it was just so very time consuming and super stressful because this was my first time ever selling or listing so many DIYs at once. It was kind of hard to keep track when I did get offers in, especially when I got a bunch of offers at the same time. All of the DIYs I had were obviously extras, and I didn't know what to do with them. First, they were on my beaches, but it outgrew my beach, so I had them towards the back of my island, and as days went on, the DIYs just kept on increasing, and Isabel did not like that at all. So I ended up selling all of them as mystery grab bags, which I sold, and as days also went by again, I ended up getting them back by message bottles on your beaches, to my villagers crafting, to sometimes but very rarely the seasonal DIYs that you could obtain from your balloons. And since I was selling a bunch of DIYs at once, I was expecting to get scammed at least once or twice throughout this whole process. But to my surprise, I did not get scammed at all. There were times where I was suspicious of the buyer's offer. For example, I had the DIY of the garden wagon. The average price is only 100,000 bells with 10 Nook Mall tickets. They offered me 300,000 bells with 10 Nook Mall tickets. I think this just goes to show that some people on here like to be very generous. And some of the DIYs I had were kind of hard to come across by. For example, the Lunar Lander. I received it in a mystery grab bag, and I ended up putting a listing for this video, and somebody offered me 1 million bells for a DIY that was only worth 300,000. Along these lines, it was quite interesting to see how much people are willing to spend for the exact same DIY. For an example, I had 2 orange end tables, and the first person offered me 9,000 bells while the other person offered me 15,000 bells. I think this just signifies that every DIY is unique and very special to somebody. I think we have all been there. A DIY that you want very desperately, but you want to feel accomplished and achieve it on your own. But as time goes by, you just fall in a desperate hole that you just go on Nookazon and buy it there. I know I have definitely been there. Like for an example, the mom's cushion. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you could only obtain that DIY if one of your villagers is crafting. To be specific, I think it is your peppy villager. So every day I would go to my villager's house in hopes that one of my peppy villagers is crafting that DIY, which was not the case because I ended up buying it from Nookazon, and to be honest, I spent more than it is worth. That's how special that DIY meant to me. It was a bit ironic that one of the DIYs I was selling was the mom's cushion. For every day for a week, I went on Nookazon and relisted all the DIYs I had in hopes I would get offers flood in. And if there was no offers that were flooding in, I would usually just relist them again, or I would try again later on at the nighttime. I wanted to go more than a week to try and sell these DIYs, but it was getting very tiring and it's very time consuming. I didn't have a lot of time to be going on Nookazon and just waiting there for some offers to flood in, so I ended it in 1 week. And if I were to kept on going, I probably would have sold all of them, but as I said, I didn't have a lot of time. Okay, so I switched over to my mic. I hope this isn't a weird transition, but I just could not take the cars outside any longer. Anyways, as I was saying, there was tons of dead time waiting for offers to flood in. The only time I would ever get offers were in the morning when I would relist them, and the nighttime. Very rarely I would get offers in the afternoon. If I was lucky, maybe one. If I was extremely lucky, maybe two. But that was very rarely. In the first 2 days, when I intended to do this test, I ended up selling 17 DIYs, which you might think that's really good, but considering the fact I had to get rid of 80, that did not put a dent at all. And then day 3 came along. I ended up selling 6 DIYs, and at the pace I was going at, it wasn't really the fastest as I intended it to be, but it was still going at a pace that wasn't really the slowest, so I really liked it. But then day 4 came along. Oh boy. On day 4, I ended up selling a whopping 1 DIY. Yes, you heard me right. 1 DIY. Throughout the whole day, just one. One offer came in and that was it. And then day 5 came along and I ended up selling 9. So I guess it made up for day 4's little tragic mistake. And then day 6 came rolling around and I only ended up selling 4 DIYs, which was not really the best, but it wasn't really worse, unlike day 4. And speaking about day 4, how I only sold 1 DIY, on day 7, I ended up selling just 1 DIY again. Oh boy, was I sad about that. So on day 4 and day 7, I only ended up selling just 1 DIY each day, which was a little sad, but I could have gotten 0 offers from those 2 days, so I'm grateful that I at least got an offer in. Although I did wanted to sell more, it is what it is. As I mentioned before, this was just a week-long test to see how much DIYs I could sell. But on my last and final day, on day 7, I only ended up selling just 1 DIY, which is really sad because I wanted it to end off in a very strong number, which was not the case. So I extended it to just 1 more day. So on day 8, I was redoing what I usually do, so I relisted the DIYs and I only stayed there for a couple of hours. And within those hours, I only ended up getting 4 offers, and that was the best I was gonna do. So I ended it there, and my last few DIYs I sold were just 4. Now, since I completed this 1 week test, there are 2 things that kept on occurring that made me really lose my mind. The first one being, when somebody would make an offer for my DIY and I go to accept them, they would immediately cancel on me. And it would make me so sad. Like, I would be so happy that somebody would want my DIY, but when I see that they canceled it, it would just make me so sad and so bummed out. And the second one being that whenever I would relist my DIYs, my listing would immediately get buried by other people's listing to a few seconds to even just a few minutes. And since their listing is at the top, the buyers would bias the ones that are at the top more than the bottom. So it was really hard to get my DIY out there and to get at least more offers in. So those two were the two problems that I kept on encountering in and really made me lose my mind just a little. Now, to answer a question you're probably thinking, was it worth it? I honestly think it depends on the person. Are you willing to sacrifice lots of time just to earn some extra bells? If you have extra time on your hands and you have tons of DIY laying around that you don't need, I think this is a good opportunity for you to earn some bells for some DIY that you would already know. And hey, you might even score more than it is worth. For me personally, I didn't really have a lot of time in my hands, as I mentioned before. The reason was because I was in summer school as I was filming this process, and because of that and my situation, I didn't really get to enjoy this little test I was doing. So, as of right now, I wouldn't really want to redo this little test again unless I really am in need of money, but I don't think that day will come any day soon. So, after reaching the 1 week process plus an extra day that I gave myself, I ended up selling just 42 DIYs, which reached the halfway point, which I was super proud of myself because I didn't think I would reach halfways. Now, you might be thinking, what did I do with the extra 40 DIYs I had? Well, I sold them as mystery grab bags, and as mystery grab bags do, they grab buyer's attention, and so this lovely person offered me 2 million bells, which I gladly accepted, but they actually messaged me saying that they were going to give me 4 million, which I was even more shocked. So thank you so much to this lovely person. And now in a few minutes I'll talk about how much I made just selling these DIYs. Now, throughout the whole process of me selling the DIYs, whenever I got some bells and some Nook Mile tickets, I would just run over to my beachside and just plop the money and the Nook Mile tickets there. And keep in mind that since this was a week long, all of the money and Nook Mile tickets were just sitting here, and I was so tempted to just pick everything up just to see how much I have made. But I wanted to stay true to this test, so it was really hard, but you know what? I got through it, and I was waiting for this moment to finally pick up all the bells and Nook Mile tickets and see how much I have made just by selling some DIYs. In the end, I ended up making 2,521,000 bells and 101 Nook Mile ticket, which is really good considering the fact that this was just in a week and I was selling DIYs, which are really hard to sell. So I forgot to make an outro, so that's why you see the skies more clear than the last clip since it was a little bit more cloudy. So I am actually really surprised that I managed to reach the halfway point of selling my DIYs. So yeah, that was really shocking. So thank you guys so much for watching this video, and to all the lovely people who bought for me. Thank you guys so much, and I'll see you guys later. Bye!